What's up, world? Jeff Lerner here, coming to you with more content about how to have an awesome life. That is my mission. That is my purpose. That is my crusade in this world, to educate and inspire people about how they can create a more awesome life, and specifically how they can apply the skills of being an entrepreneur, of being a self-determined, self-created business operator, leveraging the internet and real estate and whatever the pendulum swinging opportunities are out there for the average person to create an extraordinary life. That is my mission and purpose, and I'm here to talk to you today about the difference between rich people and poor people. I think we all know that rich people have more money than poor people. That's not the difference I'm talking about. I'm talking about why is it consistently over time certain people have confidence, consistency, and a consciousness around winning at the wealth game, acquiring more resources and more assets. And some people, frankly, the vast majority of people, that area of their life is a consistent struggle. You might be thinking, man, who's this guy? He's talking about rich and poor. He must be a real jerk. This is almost like a taboo subject that we're not supposed to talk about. But that's what we do here on my channel. We tackle the hard stuff. We confront the things that really make the difference in this world. So let's talk about rich versus poor. Okay, so first of all, I have a lot of money. I'll tell you straight up. I don't know what your definition of rich is, but by most people's definition, I have a lot of money, which means I'm qualified to talk about this. One of the first uncomfortable realities is that you should not take financial advice from people who don't have a lot of money. And I would say in this world, depending on how old somebody is, if somebody doesn't have at least a seven-figure or multiple seven-figure net worth, they're probably not a real expert in the money arena. A lot of really, really successful people got a lot more money than me. They talk about money is a way of keeping score. Money is like the scoreboard in business, right? And if you're doing well, you have a lot of points. And you know, in the money game, points is the money, right? I'm not embarrassed to say I've done well and I've scored a lot of points. That's kind of the first thing, is being objective. If you want to have a diet conversation or a nutrition conversation, you go into a doctor, want to have a wellness conversation, you got to be able to talk about your vitals. You got to be able to talk about your blood pressure or your 40 time or your vertical or your resting heart rate or your VO2 max. There's metrics. There's what they call them performance indicators. You got to really be able to look at your life and your performance indicators, which are your money, and say, what's my net worth? What are my assets versus my liabilities? What's my monthly cash flow? How much vacation can I afford to take before my income source is taken away from me? Like if I take a week off, will I get fired? That's a specific indicator of your financial health and stability. What is it that gets people in the headspace and the mindset over time where they can really start to win at this game consistently? The best book that I know of that really tackles this in a very upfront, probably even offensive way to some people is Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. I really like that book. Money Master the Game by Tony Robbins is also a really good book, but it's thicker, and let's be honest, a lot of people don't like to read really long books anymore. Secrets of the Millionaire Mind is split into, I think it's 17 wealth principles. Each one is like its own little mini book that you can read. I mean, you go read one of those in 20 or 30 minutes and have like a total eye-opening lesson. So I strongly recommend that book. But what I've done is I've tried to kind of distill this down into like three main things. You know, I'm aiming for like maybe a 10-minute video here where you go, okay, that's three things I can latch onto, and I know that I can consistently implement those over time. And if I can hold true to them over long enough period of time, maybe 6 months, maybe 12 months, I will see a measurable, distinct difference in the course of my life. So that's what I've tried to isolate here with these three things. First of all, this question. This is a question one of my mentors probably a decade ago said, Jeff, everything that comes your way, you've got to ask this question. Things that are good, things that are bad, you've got to ask this question. What can be great about this? Whatever it is. If you learn to say what can be great about this, and they call this find the silver lining or mine the gold out of the dirt, however you want to say it, but basically learning to consistently ask what can be great about this is something that really successful, really wealthy people do habitually. It's a habitual, almost ingrained, instinctive response to any bad situation. Because frankly, most of the things that happen to us on a spectrum of positive to negative, actually the majority of things tend to be negative. Like there's more bad stuff that's gonna happen to us than good stuff, just taken as, you know, purely neutrally objective in terms of the outcome of our life. So really successful people mitigate the bad and they amplify the good because they're always seeking to find the greatness in whatever's happening, which kind of leads us to the next habit that wealthy, successful people have, which is what I call win big, lose small. The best way I know to illustrate win big, lose small, if you know anything about trading stocks, a lot of platforms that you use for trading stocks will allow you to put in something that's called a trailing stop. A trailing stop basically says, as the stock goes up, my stop trails the stock, right? The stop will trail it up, but it will not trail it down. So stock's going up, stop is trailing. If the stock changes direction and starts to go down, the stop stays right there. So let's say you set your trailing stop at 5%. So your stop is always 5% below the price of the stock. Well, that means if the stock goes down 5%, boom, sells your shares, you're out. So a trailing stop, essentially, it's always cut your losses. As soon as the stock takes a dip, cut your losses. Now, what that means is if you buy the stock down here and you install your trailing stop and the stock immediately goes down, boom, you're out. 5% loss or 10%, whatever you set the stop at. That's it. That's all you're willing to lose. But you'll let the stock ride. You'll let it go as high as possible until it ever takes a dip. This is my experience with really successful people. And I've tried to emulate this. They let their winners ride and they cut their losses quickly. They win big and they lose small. You know, Warren Buffett says the first rule of making money is to never lose money. And the second rule is refer back to the first rule. Never lose money. And there's mathematical reasons for this. If you look at rates of return and such, it's a lot harder to recover losses than it is to continue to compound gains. The enemy of this is emotion. And this is why there's whole books written about how to trade stocks and how to be a cold calculating, emotionless day trader and all this stuff, is because what emotion does. And to be honest, if I'm being a little bit blunt, poor people tend to be ruled by emotion. People that consistently reinforce sort of poverty results in their life tend to be driven by emotion. Because frankly, making money is a very emotionless kind of game. Your emotions are going to say, when something starts to drop, hang on, hang in there. Remember why you bought it in the first place. Remember why you did it in the first place. Don't cut your loss. No, you got to persevere. Because as soon as you take the loss, now it's a failure. And we don't want to count our failures, right? We want to hang in because maybe it'll turn. So we don't cut our losses, we hang on, and we end up having mistakes and things that are really hard to recover from. Whereas, you know, emotionally, we like to take our gains when we win and we don't let them ride because we're scared that we're going to lose them. A lot of us are subconsciously or even consciously uncomfortable with winning, particularly in the money game. So when we start to win, we get nervous and we go, oh, I better quit while I'm ahead, right? We've all heard that. Quit while you're ahead. Don't quit while you're ahead. Let it ride. Win big. Quit while you're behind. That's what really successful people do. Finally, I have here be ethical. You might say, of course, everybody should be ethical. Being ethical is part of a good person. In fact, being a good person is defined by your ethics, right? But that's not what I mean specifically. What I mean is be ethical as in be ethical about making money, as in believe that you have an ethical responsibility to make money. And a lot of people have a really hard time with that. I don't want to be all about money. I don't want to sell. I don't want to take money from other people. And I don't want to ask for money. The money conversation is uncomfortable. And it's all about what they want and what they feel and who they, how they see themselves. And it's like, well, no, if you were sitting here going, well, I don't want to be charitable and I don't want to be a good person. And I don't want to love my family and I don't want to be faithful to my spouse and I don't want to be a good parent, because it's uncomfortable. And people would say, I don't care if you want to do those things, they're the right thing to do. You have an ethical responsibility to be a good parent. You have an ethical responsibility to be a kind, caring person to your loved ones, or be a good neighbor in your community, right? Nobody cares if you want to do them or you like to do them. You have an ethical responsibility to do them. You got to believe that about making money. You got to take it out of the realm of, how do I feel about this? Do I really want this? Is this consistent with what I've been told my whole life? No, you have an ethical responsibility to get more dollars into your bank account, because every dollar belongs to someone or some entity. And what does money do? Money magnifies the person that controls the money, right? If you have a really, really bad, evil person that has $5 to his name, and then you have another really bad, evil person that has $500 million to his name, the world has a bigger problem with the guy who has $500 million to his name, right? This is like drug cartels. They're not dangerous because they're bad people. They're dangerous because they're bad people that have a lot of money and power. If every dollar belongs to somebody and you are this good, ethical person, don't you have a responsibility to get more of the dollars into your possession so they can amplify the good and you can keep them out of the hands of potentially other people that would use them to do harm? I think so. Never mind if you're a parent, if you're a provider, even if you're a kid. Are you a kid? Comment below. Tell me what you think about this. Do you think you have an ethical responsibility to get more money? I really believe that we do. If I want to take care of my family, and especially in the world that we live in, I'm a dad, I have 4 kids. The world we live in, I cannot predict what my kids' life is going to look like, my kids' kids. It's crazy out there. But I know beyond a reasonable doubt, I know as a certainty that if I have a lot of money, I can provide more stability and security for my family against the unpredictable disruptions that are likely to happen. We can't predict what's going to happen, but we can definitely predict that significant, calamitous, negative things are going to happen in this world. That's a consistent truth. And the buffer is money. Maybe that hurts people's feelings. Maybe that doesn't seem fair, but the buffer is money. So get a lot of it so you can take care of the people you care about, and so that you can amplify the good that you hopefully think you are, and you can take money away from people that would amplify the bad that maybe they are. These are 3 things that are fundamental to getting lots of money. Asking what can be great about this, winning big, losing small. Don't quit while you're ahead. Keep going while you're ahead. Quit when you get behind. Bail out. Get out. Go do something else. When a rich person's in a deal and he starts to see the deal go bad, he doesn't tolerate it. He doesn't sit around. He doesn't hope for the best. He pulls his money out and goes on to the next deal. He or she is emotionless. Be ethical. You have to believe you have an ethical responsibility to get a lot of money. If you believe you have an ethical responsibility to get a lot of money, and I hope that you do, I would encourage you to see the link that I'm going to put in the description of this video, because I'm going to show you a program that I've used to help make a lot of money, and you should check it out because it is your ethical responsibility to get a lot of cash. All right? Catch you next time. Subscribe to the channel if you like this stuff, and we'll see you on the next one.